You don't own the place. You don't have to stump up 200 grand for a deposit on the gaff. You don't have to pay the stamp duty, all that sort of thing. The least you can do is pay an agent for his work, but hey. Hi, my name is Jeroen. Welcome to the blog. Today I'm going to be talking about why the tenant fee ban has been the 30% APR scorecard of the 21st century for tenants. So we've had the tenant fee ban for over 6 months now. The tenant fee ban came in June 2019. So we're now in February. So we've had a good 8 months to see how things have panned out. So what's been happening in the industry? Well, there's three sides to it. There's the letting agent side, there's a tenant side, and there's the landlord side. Now, back in May 2019, the Arla Property Mark, they sort of predicted that rents would go up. They actually put a number on it. They said £103 a year. I don't know how they predicted that accurately. Whether it happened or not, it's up for debate. They said a blanket increase over the whole of the UK. I can only speak for London, really. And London, rents have definitely gone up, and rightly so. Agents turn to landlords to recoup more costs. They've had more red tape, more stuff to do. And generally, it's been a bit of a problem because I've been speaking to other agents, and there's no hard and set sort of figures on this, but because tenants only have to leave 1 week's rent as a deposit, what has happened is they put a week's rent down here, a week's rent down there, so it took the property that came back the best for them, after thinking about it for a little bit because they didn't want to lose out and what have you. And guess what? When they withdraw, the agent is allowed to keep the money. But if they don't withdraw, then the agent doesn't get to keep the money. Most agents take, say, £1,000, and now that's reduced to 1 week's rent. So the problem was that agents were thinking, well, tenants will put in multiple applications. Whether that's happened or not, we don't know. There's no hard, real data. And to be frank, I get the feeling that it's not that much of a problem. I think a lot of people were more worried about it being a problem than it actually has turned into one. Now, what are tenants saying? Tenants say that they find that rents have gone up a lot. Well, yeah, no duh, because costs have gone up. And guess what? The agents turned right around to the landlord and said, well, look, Mr. Landlord, we can't charge the tenants anymore, so we're going to charge you. Sorry. And landlords, they took the view, well, listen, if my costs are going up, well, guess what? Then your rents are going up. Quite simple. Now, the tenant fee ban and the cap on deposits is set to save renters £240 million a year, or up to £70 a household. Now, definitely in London, the savings are a lot bigger. £70 is like, not even a night out in London. But the point that I'm going to make now is the whole scorecard point. So they're saving £70 per transaction on average. Let's call it £250. Saving it because you're not paying it up front. Well, they are paying for it, but just in the long run. And guess what? If you defer payments, it's always going to cost more in the long run, unless it's genuinely 0% APR. But to be truthful, landlords, they're in it for money. Yeah, they provide housing to tenants in return for fair exchange, monetary exchange, money. So landlords aren't going to turn around and say, oh, don't worry, we'll suck up the cost. That's just not going to happen, is it? They're just going to raise rents slowly. And landlords are in it for the long game. So they'll raise rents and tenants will pay in the long run. They will pay a little bit more. They'll pay back whatever they didn't pay at the start with interest through higher rents, because rents are now climbing at a higher rate than they were before. See, it turns out that tenants have actually become worse deal negotiators. Now, I looked at some data from simplybusiness.co.uk, and they're suggesting that 32% of letting agents saw a rise in rents in December. Now, that is normal. There's still a lot of movement in December. Although it's a quiet month, prices tend to be okay in December. Which is unusual, like the data would suggest that, because personal experience always dictated that December was a horrible month in both price and transaction levels. But anyway, the data seem to suggest that the figure is largely in line with expectations. But when you compare this year on year, the figure is up 16% from December 2017 and 18% from December 2018. Now, that's quite a surprise. That's a big surprise, actually. But it's a big surprise given it's December, but is it a big surprise given the tenant fee ban and what I've just said about paying for it later? No, guess not. Guess it's all kicking in because the tenant fee ban started in June, then in December things kick in, you finally get the higher rents. Suddenly landlords have clocked on and gone, hey, hang on, I need to charge higher rents, which is funny because tenant demand is the lowest in December. Out of the whole year, tenant demand is the lowest in September. You're still getting the most increase that we've seen so far. So take from that what you will. So to come back to landlords, what are they doing? Well, they're getting charged more by agents. Great. They're putting rents up. Great. Who's losing out? The tenants. Guess what? The tenants are losing out. They thought they saved because they're not paying fees, and Panorama and all the BBC programs and all these rip-off Britain and you name it, they love to bash agents and these upfront costs of fees are enormous. We've paid 2 months worth of fees. You haven't paid 2 months worth of fees. You paid a 6-week deposit. You paid a month's rent in advance and probably £200 to £400 in like agency fees, which is a normal sort of admin fee. Look, if they're moving in 3 to 4 professionals, they're referencing, 3 people plus maybe a guarantor, it's 50 quid a head. It's not all that much money, is it? 50, 100 quid a head, whatever it is, How often do you move house? Like once every 2 to 3 years? Last time I checked, the average tenancy in the UK was 18 months. So if you got to pay, 200 quid every 18 months, well, it's kind of cost of renting, isn't it? You don't own the place. You don't have to stump up 200 grand for a deposit on the gaff. You don't have to pay the stamp duty, all that sort of thing. The least you can do is pay an agent for his work. But hey, politics dictates that we can't charge anything to the tenants now, which is fine. It all goes to landlord. Landlords put rents up, and the tenants lose out overall because rents are skyrocketing. Well, that's my take on it, at least. So I think down the line they're going to blame the government because they're going to figure out like, hey, hang on, we're paying more in the long run. Oh, who'd have thunk it? So they're going to turn around and blame the government or blame someone else. They've fallen for the subscription models or lifestyle because, quite frankly, you look at Amazon, Netflix, whatever, they're used to sort of renting as they go and not really owning anything. Now, for Netflix, that's absolutely fine. I mean, look at your DVD collection. When was the last time you actually went back and watched one of your old DVDs? You don't, do you? You can't even keep up with the new stuff that's coming out, let alone like go back and watch all the other stuff. There's so much else to do. So tenants are very much in this renting trap. But is it a trap? I don't think it is, because tenants want to be fluid. Like I rent myself just because I want to be able to get up and go if I get bored of the area or life changes or whatever. Mix it up a little bit. I don't see the need to sink, hundreds of thousands of pounds into a property that I live in because that's just going to be a money pit. I'm just going to do it up and, make a project out of it. I'll need to live in it myself and not be able to leverage it any further. So that's just personal choice, really. So ultimately, is it a bad thing that they're stuck in the renting trap? No. Is it a bad thing that it's going to cost more? Well, the way they've gone about it, it's going to cost them more a lot quicker than it would do if they pay the fees up front. It's always cheaper to pay up front than it is to pay in the long run, right? Interest and all that. So there's my take on it. I hope that's been useful. If you did find this video useful, then do like or comment down below and see you next time.